Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Cooking with Grandma. Today I'm going to show you how to make homemade pierogies. We have a tradition in our family. My mother started it with myself, my sister, and my three brothers, that when it was our birthdays, we got to choose whatever we wanted for supper, for our birthday supper. So I've done that with my children and now my grandchildren. So Tuesday is my son's birthday, and he chose to have pierogies. They usually pick pierogies. Stuffed shells, manicotti, and pierogies. That's their top to-go-tos. So today I'm going to show you how easy it is to make homemade pierogies. It's very easy, but it's a little time-consuming. So we're going to start with the dough. I will put this recipe in the description, so if anybody wants to see it. So we start with the dough, and that is 2½ cups of flour. Now this is my mother-in-law's recipe. She's Ukrainian, and that was a kind of a staple, having pierogies. There's 2 cups. That was a staple having. What I do is I make a batch of them, and I freeze them flat on a cookie sheet. I've got my cookie sheet ready here. It's lined with foil and coated with flour. I do that, and I freeze them flat in the freezer, and then take them out and put them in bags. So whenever I want them, if I have extra after the birthday party, take them out of the freezer, pop them in some boiling water, 7 to 10 minutes, there you go. You top them with sour cream. You can cut up onions and have, it's called skorki in Ukrainian. You can cut it up and fried onions and top them with that as well. You can, now for the filling, I do potato and cheese and cottage cheese. It's very, very difficult to find dry cottage cheese anymore, and if you can, it's quite expensive. So I buy the 1% cottage cheese in the tubs and put it through a strainer, get all the water out of it, the liquid, and just have the cottage cheese. Now, we have the 2½ cups of flour in the bowl. To that, we add ½ teaspoon of salt, and give that a little stir with a fork, just to mix the salt in with the flour. Now, to that, we're going to, in a 2-cup measuring cup, I mean you can use a 1 cup, you need 3/4 of a cup of hot water. My measuring cup here. 3/4 of a cup. And always use the measuring cup that has the spout on it, like, let me get that in the camera here. A little blurry. Back it up a little bit. There we go. We want the one with the spout right there, because that's going to give you a truly accurate measurement. And I always, when I measure it, I set it down on the counter and let the liquid stop jiggling and settle it and make sure it's exactly at that point. So I'm going to put that in my measuring cup. To that I'm going to add 1 egg and 2 tablespoons of cooking oil. You can use any kind of oil you like. I have never tried it with olive oil. I suppose it would work, but whatever. This is just regular canola oil. So we have 2. That's it. That's our ingredients. You take that and you mix it up with a fork until the egg is mixed. Oh, I splashed it all over the place. You mix it up with a fork until the egg is beat up a little bit and incorporated. And now what you do is you pour that into your flour mixture, stirring it as you pour it in. You keep stirring, and you just use a fork. You don't use beaters. You don't use, any kind of mixer. Wooden spoon won't really work. A fork is better. You stir it until it starts to pull away from the sides of the bowl. If you've ever made bread or pizza dough, it's the same idea. So there, you can see that it's pulling away very nicely. It's a very nice soft dough. So what you do with this is you take a little tiny bit of flour, put it on your board, your counter, and then you take the dough and pour it out onto the counter, and you're going to knead it. You take your dough, put it in a pile, you bring it towards you, and you push. Turn it, bring it towards you, and you push it out. And you keep doing this until it's all incorporated, all the bits are incorporated. It takes a couple of minutes, not very long at all. This is such an easy recipe. It is just time consuming. I usually make 4 or 5 or 6 dozen at a time and freeze it, and then that way the day of the birthday I'm not cooking and making these all day long. I have done that in the past, then I kind of got smart and I decided to do it this way. So you take it, bring it towards you, and push it again away from you, turn it, bring it towards you, make it a little ball, and push it. And what you want is, you'll know it's ready when you have a nice ball of dough that keeps its shape. Now there it is. So now there are a few different ways to make pierogies. The way I learned when I first started making them is the hard way, the long way. So I'm going to show you that way, but I'll show you the quicker way that I've discovered over the years. You take a little flour on your board and you pat it. Take a sharp knife and you want to cut a little piece of your pierogi dough. And the filling of what I'm using today is mashed potato and cheese. You boil your potatoes, mash them. You want to mash them with a fork or a hand masher, not with a mixer. You put butter in, salt and pepper, no milk because it'll be too soft. And then you grate up cheese. And let's see if I can show you better. There we go. Can you see that better? There we go. That's mashed potatoes with cheese in it. There. And that's all the filling. And with the cottage cheese, I buy the 1% cottage cheese and strain it through a wire sieve just to get the liquid out. You put about a teaspoonful of dough, of filling rather, sorry, in each little pocket. So what I've done here is I've made a rope, a snake, out of the dough. There you go, long one. And then you take it and you cut it into little pieces, like so. You just cut it like that. Now, this is the first way. This is the way I learned to do it many years ago, probably about 30 years ago. So you take it and you dip each little piece in flour. Where are we here? There we go. And you're going to roll it out into a circle with your rolling pin. It will stretch and it will kind of fight with you, but that's okay. That's what you want. You want it to roll out. You want it to be a nice flat circle. If it's too sticky, add just a touch of flour. Just a very light touch. So there you have a nice circle of dough. So to that, you take 1 teaspoon of your filling, like so, and you put it right in the middle of your pastry circle. You fold it in half and you pinch the sides. This is when I first started doing it and I thought, oh my goodness, it's going to take me 3 years to make one batch of pierogi. It did. It took me all day. I would start in the morning and I'd stop for a little bit and I'd start again because it just took forever. Then you take a fork and you push it. Let me see if I can show that a little bit. Okay, here we are. So you have it in your, sorry, a little sloppy camera work there. There's your pierogi, and you take your fork and you just press it on the edges like so, like that. So what you're left with is this. You want to make sure the edges are pinched real tight, and then you put it on your baking sheet. You want to make sure the edges are pinched up real tight, because if it opens in the water, all your filling is gone, and then you're out of luck. Now, okay, now the second way is I discovered these little these little pierogi makers. Bought them at the kitchen store at the Penn Center. And you just fold it, and it's quite easy. The third way is even faster. My daughter had bought me, it's kind of like a ravioli maker. I guess you could use it for raviolis, but I'll show you this. Again, you roll your dough out into a disc. Now with this maker, this little thing here, you can roll your dough out into a big square and use the bottom to cut circles, like a cookie cutter. So then you're just getting the perfect size. But I already cut it in the little snake rope things in separate little pieces to show you how to make it the old way. And now I'll show you. So you cut out your disc make it nice and flat. You put it on, stretch it out. It does go back. It's elasticity, and it will go back. So there you have it on your little holder. You add, again, 1 teaspoon of filling right in the middle, Make sure it's centered, the dough is centered. So you have it like that. And then you simply close and squeeze. As you squeeze it shut, some of the dough comes out, you just scrape that off. If you have, like that means you made the circle a little too big. Doesn't matter, you can use that again. You can roll that up again. And then open it, and there you have a perfect pierogi. A lot quicker, a lot easier. And now the third way is my best way. My daughter, it's called the Canal Side, the restaurant in Port Holborn. They had their wedding reception there, and they have a kitchen store with things they sell, kitchen items. And she worked in the store for a little bit. She helped out on Canal Days, and she bought me this thing, this maker here. It is like this. It looks like this. And what you do is you cover the whole thing with a sheet of dough. Pull your filling in each little section here. Each of these little sections will hold so this makes 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. You're getting 18 pierogies all at once. You can use this for raviolis as well, but this is what I do with it. So we roll out the dough all the way, and it, it's a little tricky because it kind of, as soon as you get it rolled out, it snaps right back. That's good though. You want that to happen. That means it's a nice dough, and it's not going to be too dry if it does that. You just keep pushing it and keep pushing it, and eventually it's going to say, oh, well, okay, I'm not going to snap back anymore. No more stretching. You can just stretch it. So you put your dough right on here, like this. Cover the whole thing, let it drape over the edges. And there you go, you have that whole nice sheet of dough. And I just give it a little push down to make the little indents where the pierogies are, where the filling is going to go. And you take a teaspoon of dough, and again, put it in the center of each little spot there. This is by far the easiest. It is quickest because you can make 18 at a time versus that little, the thing I did in the second part and make 1, or the beginning one. The first one is the way I did it for years and years until I discovered the little hand makers. And tell you, it was a lifesaver because I make these, 4 or 5 times a year. Sometimes I'll just make them just to have them for supper because, it's nice to have. But most of the time, because it is so time consuming and it's not expensive, you have a big bag of flour, you have potatoes, you have eggs, you have cheese. The only thing that I buy extra is cottage cheese. It's not something we have on hand all the time. So there, you've got quick and done. You've got your filling in each little section. So you take another ball of dough. Use the second one. I'm going to cut this in half because normally one batch of dough makes 2 sheets like that. So I'm going to roll this out on a little bit of flour and cover it, and then I'll show you how quick and easy it is to pop those out. Now this second batch of dough isn't quite as nice and soft as my first one for some reason. You must use warm water. I find that if you just use tap water right out of the tap, it does, I don't know, it just doesn't make it right. I'm not sure if it's the water or if I mixed it too long or what it is, but it's much better with hot water. Not steaming, not boiling, hot. You don't want it hot enough to make a cup of tea, but you want it really hot. So there we go, it's starting to roll. So once it gets rolled out, you cover it up, and then you take your rolling pin after you covered it and you roll over the top like this, and you keep rolling until it is flat, and the lines where the marks are, where the indentations are, where each one, it'll cut the dough for you as you roll it, and then just flip it over, pop them on your cookie sheet, you're good to go, start again. Okay, so what you put, after you put your top layer of dough on, you roll it, and if you notice, you'll see the red showing through where I rolled it. If your dough is a little on the dry side, not quite as soft as it should be, it will be a little tougher. arms get a good workout. You just use your rolling pin and push real hard, and it cuts the dough. So then what you do is you just peel away, you break away the dough, pull it off, and this leftover, if it's not too dried out, you can roll it again for another batch. Sometimes it gets, after 2 or 3 times and forget it, throw it away, start a new ball. I mean, you don't want to waste too much dough, but at the same time, it's not going to work, and the pierogies are going to be dry. They're not going to taste very good. So there you have it. How quick is that? And then they make 18 perfectly shaped, and there's the pierogies that come out of it. Sometimes if it's rolled really well and cut really well, after you pull off your dough, you just flip this over, give it a little tap, and the pierogies come right out. Now, like I said, for the filling, this is potato and cheese. I do cottage cheese ones, and I also have made sauerkraut. If y'all like sauerkraut, it's a good filling. You do have to squeeze it out and strain it, because sauerkraut comes in a liquid. If you've ever had it, you know. And you don't want any liquid in here because it'll make it soggy. When you're done, when you're ready to cook these, you put them in a pot of boiling water for about 7 minutes. They puff up, and they'll be nice and tender. So there, I took all the crust off, or the extra crust, turn it over, give it a little tap. Sometimes you gotta help them out, give them a little push, and there we go. My pierogies are out, like that, perfect. There we go. And I make, my mother-in-law used to make dessert pierogies. She used to have like cherry pie filling and apple pie filling. They were lovely, they were delicious. But that's what you can do. That's how quick and easy it is to make homemade pierogies. I will leave the recipe, the ingredients, and the filling amounts and the filling directions in the description below. I hope you all try these, and like I said, just pop them in boiling water and boil them like you would pasta. There they are, all finished. There's the first one that you have to pinch, this one here that you have to pinch up with a fork. That's my first one. That's the old-fashioned way. This one is with the little thing that you put it in and you close it. And then these are the ones that are there's what the holder looks like, and there's the pierogies in there. I didn't pop all of them out. That's what they look like when they're all popped out. They're all nicely, solidly sealed. And these actually seal a lot better than just something with a fork. So there you have it. I hope you enjoy. Leave a comment. Make sure to like and subscribe. And have a good day. Bye now.